Hi, I'm Doug Cushman. I'm a painter and illustrator, author of children's books. Welcome to my Watercolor Techniques series. Today we're going to talk about painting a portrait in watercolor. Watercolor is probably not the first medium that most people think of for portraiture or figure drawing, but I like it especially because there's an energy to the watercolor, the medium. It lives, it breathes. There's this wonderful life to the portraiture, to the watercolor medium that adds a certain essence to the life of the model itself. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy the watercolor so much. Some of my heroes, John Singer Sargent, for example, Winslow Homer, they were just brilliant in capturing the life and their energy of their model through the watercolor medium. In a studio situation where I'm drawing and painting a figure I don't know, a live model in a class, for example, my main intention is just to get the gesture, proportion of the figure correct, the color perhaps. In this instance, I'm painting a friend of mine. I've known Julie for a long time. I know her personality. We have talked together, we've eaten together, we've laughed together. So I wanted to get her personality down on paper, her energy and her life. I like to have not just a figure, but a little bit of background, something that the model can relate to. I try to get an interesting chair, for instance, if the model is sitting, an interesting background. The flowers, I enjoy painting flowers, that's part of it as well. So I'm not painting just a face, just a figure, but an environment. I put in just a neutral background because I knew Julie was going to be very colorful, and I knew that she was going to be energetic just sitting there by herself. Her scarf was just absolutely wonderful. I knew that she was going to be dressed in some very colorful, active clothes. Her face was going to be very energetic. Her hair was going to be very energetic. First start, the foundation of any painting for me, especially watercolor, is the drawing aspect of it. What I'll do first is look at the model and just stare at my paper for a couple of minutes, designing the figure onto the paper in a blank form. For me, the drawing then is going to be the foundation, the structure, the framework. If I don't have a good drawing, I can't have a good painting. So I focus on the line work, the proportions, the relationship between the arm to the leg, to the chair, to the flowers, making sure that I can get those relationships right and together. It takes me a long time for the drawing to be put down. I focus on that very, very, very hard. But once I feel I have a good, solid drawing down, then I can start painting. I mess up a lot. I do a lot of measuring. The normal measuring aspect, you'll measure, everything's measured by heads. So what I'll do when I hold my pencil up is I'll measure her head, and that will be the status quo of every single part of her body. So for instance, I'll measure her head and I'll say if a head is from her chin to her torso, for instance, or the length of her leg, or the space between an arm and the chair. Is it half a head? Is it 3/4 of a head? Many times what I'll do is I'll look not at the positive space, but her negative space. There's a space in between her torso and her arm. That's actually the chair. I'll see the shape of that space and see if that looks correct at the same time. So I'm drawing not only what I see, what's there, but what's not there. The spaces, the negative spaces, are just as important as the positive spaces. If it doesn't look right, I'll just erase and start all over again. The drawing has to be right. You cannot fudge the drawing. You cannot make the drawing okay. It's got to be right on, and that's what I like to focus on. The painting aspect is a little looser. It's a little more free, like I say, with a watercolor, but that underlying structure still will show through with the watercolor painting. As I paint, I get my solid drawing down. I get the drawing as accurate as I can. I mix the colors as accurately as possible, and I start to paint. But it becomes a living entity, and I can't control everything. So I have two choices. I either fight with my medium, or I go with the flow, as they say. I usually go with the flow. So the painting starts becoming the dictator. It tells me what I need to do, so I just go with it. And I think that's why the paintings that I do are so spontaneous looking, because the painting starts to take over. And the model is only a suggestion. It's the painting that people are going to see. It's the painting that people are going to relate to, not the model. The most fun is when I start painting. That's when the life comes. That's where the excitement happens, in my personal opinion. Once I put that first stroke down of watercolor onto the paper, I'm committed. And it is like a piece of music that I can't back up. I can't rewind anymore. I have to keep going. And it's almost like a tightrope walk event. You just start, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put more paper down, or we're going to put more paint down and see what happens. Oops, that didn't work out. Well, let's try this instead. Okay, that works out fine. Let's try something else. I don't know. It is sort of a roller coaster ride. My heart does start beating a little bit. I do hold my breath every so often. What I'm trying to do is, dare I say, suck the soul out of my model and put it onto the paper. You know, get that personality on paper. I am, maybe, dare I say, a conduit of her personality, the model's personality, through me onto the paper. I just see myself as a middleman. I hope I've given you some helpful hints for your own watercolor painting. You have a great time.